Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the James and Brown Podcast. I'm your host Raj, and with me as always is my co-host Spencer.
Hey everybody.
How you doing, man?
Good.
How's the wedding planning going?
We've entered into the men buy suit stage.
Yeah?
That's hard. It's so much easier to sit back and watch the lady do all the work, like pick the dress colors, pick the wedding colors, and then she's like, pick suits. I don't even know. You know, the funny part is, her brother is a little more fit than I am.
Uh-huh.
So I just sat in a chair and watched him trying all the suits. Got him to change this, change that. It was quite lazy, but it felt pretty good. I imagined that's what I look like.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I haven't had to do anything for your wedding yet.
Nope.
I don't imagine I will have to do anything for a while.
Well, you are in the wedding party, so you will have to support me on the day. I hope you will.
I will. I still have to find you a gift. I've been looking for like the last month for something appropriate for you, and it's not easy.
Well, it's funny. I ask you, hey, look, like, I want like a fork or a knife set, and you're like, no, anime related.
It has to be anime related.
I guess so.
I'm like, come on, we do an anime podcast together. I have to give you something anime related.
I mean, did you check out my shirt?
Totoro?
I'm repping a Batman Totoro shirt.
I'm just wearing a plain black Calvin Klein shirt.
It's okay.
It's a gift from my brother.
It's a nice shirt.
It's all right.
Yeah.
All right. So, moving on. Today we're going to talk about something that I said in the last podcast, very near and dear to me. And it really is. A series that I've been following for 4 to 5 years. It's been going on for 6 until it recently ended. The World God Only Knows. Now, I introduced you to the series, or rather, I told you to read it around 3 years ago. And when you asked me, you asked me how to explain, like, the plot to you. And I said, it's a guy who plays a lot of dating sims, and he applies it to real life where he tries to actually get girls in real life. And you were like, no, I'm not touching it. That sounds horrible.
I was in my beginning stages of anime watching. I wasn't reading manga at that point. I was strictly watching dubs at that point. I was new.
You started with dubs?
I started with dubs.
I mean, I did too, but I started watching anime when I was like 4.
We watched Full Metal Alchemist in a dub.
Did we?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I watched it dubbed for the first time.
I regret it.
It has a good dub, though.
I still regret it, though.
Yeah?
You can't beat sub.
You can't, but Fullmetal Alchemist, along with, I'd say, Death Note, they have solid dubs.
Did I watch? No, I watched Death Note sub.
You should, because the dub is, it's good, but it's not nearly as good as the sub. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're not talking about that. So The World God Only Knows is about a character named Katsuragi Keima, Keima being his first name, who makes kind of a deal with a multitude of devils, actually, where he has to capture escaped devils from hell who hide themselves inside girls' hearts. And the only way to get them out of the girls' hearts is by filling the heart with something else.
It wasn't even his fault, though. I mean, what Keima does is he's super quiet at school. He doesn't say anything to anybody. All he does all the time is play games on his PSP, or whatever they call it.
PFP.
PFP, okay? And what happened was, when he goes home, he has this crazy setup where he plays multiple games at once. And online, he's known as the god of
Capture, I think.
Capture. And so what he does is he advises people on which series to play and how to beat it and all that stuff. So pretty much he needs to play the new game that comes out in order so that he can instruct people on how to win it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so the first opening theme in the first season is so good.
It's really good.
Also, they do a thing in the first 2 seasons where in the very last episode, Keima sings the ending theme, and it's hilarious because his singing is awful, but he sticks through it.
It's totally a filler, right?
It's absolute filler.
And he goes in and he just plays a bunch of games, and there's this one game he's trying to conquer or something. I don't know. Anyways, he ends up playing games so much that he gets sucked into the TV, and the girls call for him, and he's... You know what? This time I'm going to make our ending that horrible.
Oh, no, don't, please.
Oh, it's going to happen. That ending is going to be the ending of this podcast.
Oh, don't do it.
Now that you've reminded me.
Don't do it.
Oh, these people need to hear.
What have I done?
It's so funny.
Yeah, so the demons it's called New Hell, they make a mistake and thinking, oh, he's the god of capturing. He must be really good at capturing real women. So they send him a contract, which is basically a challenge that says something along the lines of, we heard you're this great capture of women, and are you will you prove it? And Keima, being the god of capture, is like, yeah, of course I'll prove it. And then he gets like a ring around his neck that kind of confines him, and a devil girl named Elsie, who's just adorable. She's so cute.
Totally reminded me of Yu Yu Hakusho. Hey,
Did it? Oh, I guess,
I
but
mean-
more cutesy.
yeah. Well, you had just coming off of again rewatching the whole series of Yu Yu Hakusho. You love it.
Yeah, that's my third time watching Yu Yu Hakusho.
So, anyways, it just reminded me because he's just a guy, totally different situations, but he's a guy who came into the world of dead, run by devils who are far more structured than we think devils to be. It's a classic trope.
Yeah. So Keima, he only knows one way to capture women. That's with love, in-game love, of course. So he, at first, of course, he rejects everything. He's like, no, I don't want to do this. I hate real life. 2D's where it's at. And the thing is, if he doesn't capture any devils, his collar will explode and he'll be decapitated, along with Elsie too. So basically, they're both resigned to their fates. And at least in the first chapter, and I guess the first episode of the anime as well, Elsie really tries to push Keima to capture the very first girl named Ayumi, who actually is my favorite girl for Keima.
Ayumi, best girl.
I really wanted them to get together. Even though she's the first girl, like I felt like they fit perfectly. Anyway, so they go through like a bunch of video game tropes where like Keima's like she's the athletic girl, so he's like athletic girls wear bloomers, not shorts when they work out. So Elsie like changes everybody's shorts into bloomers, and she's like, "Will you capture her now?" She's like, "No, her hair has to be tied up." And then Ayumi ties up her hair just like coincidentally, and then Keima's like, "Okay, I guess I could try to go for her."
What was interesting though is as much as Elsie was pushing Keima to conquer girls, he doesn't really have any knowledge on how to deal with 3D girls. He doesn't know how to do it. And he actually has a big moral issue with what Elsie's asking him to do at first.
Did he? I can't remember.
At first he was a little hesitant on actually engaging with a real person, I think.
He doesn't like real life girls. He doesn't like real life in
He
general.
probably doesn't like real life consequences. That's the issue.
I guess. He gets beat a lot in this series. Poor guy. But I mean, we're not going to go over the entire conquest, but basically he finishes conquering Yumi. It's a really sweet ending scene.
Probably one of my favorite conquests. I think
It's the first and it's one of the best. It's really nice. Like in the manga anyway, because I started reading instead of watching it at first. And
I was the different way. I watched the anime until I got frustrated with the anime.
yeah. When Ayumi and Keima finally have the kiss, it goes to this beautiful 2-page spread, and the entire just both pages are dedicated to this kiss, and it just captures it so beautifully. The artist for this series is so good. I love the art. There's a reason this was my favorite ongoing series, because not only is the art great, it made me laugh consistently, and I really liked Keima. He wasn't just a stagnant harem protagonist, because this is a harem series. He's something else. He's a man who rejects the harem.
Yeah. I can't even know if I can classify it as a harem series based on what I know. I mean, he wasn't spineless. Like we were talking about the week before. He did his own thing the entire time.
Yeah.
He didn't until one of the last couple chapters. He showed absolutely no real affection to any girl.
No, I have to disagree with that.
Who then?
All the girls at one point made him soften up a little bit.
Oh, a little bit. But I mean, what can you expect when you're going for a kiss? Like that affects anybody.
No, but the kiss itself, he before he goes for a kiss, he locks his mind. Like he knows this is for the capture. For example, that's why Yui always caught him off guard, is because she went at her own pace. If he's not prepared for the kiss, it just ruins him. He doesn't know what to do. His brain just shuts off. Yui is a rich girl. She's the rich girl trope who doesn't want to be rich. And she's like, I think she has, if not the best, one of the best conquests in this entire series, which was not portrayed in the anime.
Which makes me really frustrated because I was enjoying the anime immensely. Okay, get this. Me finally watching the manga series that Raj loves so much. I'm sitting on the couch. I get to the end of season 1 or whatever, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's still going. Turn on to season 2. And all of a sudden, it blitzes...
That was season 3.
Season 3. It blitzes through 3 or 4 girls all at once. Boom, 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 boom. Just blows all of the stories out of the water. I had to hit the pause button so fast. And I was like, Rajpreet, where do I start? Like, this is what happened. How do I get back? And he told me, and I haven't watched the anime since. It's probably caught up at this point. Maybe I'll watch it again, but that was really frustrating for me.
The anime?
Why would they skip these?
I understand why would they skip a number of girls, because a lot of them aren't actually plot crucial, as you find out in the 3rd season of the anime.
Yeah.
There's something called the goddess arc, that brings back a bunch of the girls Keima conquered. And so skipping over the ones that don't come back, I understand. But Yui is one of the ones that comes back. And her conquest, like I said, is one of the best in the anime. So I don't understand why they would skip it. It makes no sense to me.
Throughout the series, Keima is thinking that all his goal is to conquer all these girls and get the spirits out of them.
Yeah.
Does it have a specific name?
Kaketama, which I think means loose soul.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, lost soul, loose soul. But all of a sudden we get to
Is it Kaketama?
the end of season 2, and we find out that there's something more to what's going on.
Before we get to that, though, we should mention that every time a girl's conquest and the soul is ejected from her body and captured, they lose their memories. Their memories are erased, so they don't interfere with Keima's future conquest. But you do see a little hintings where after he conquers a girl, I mean, when he conquers them, they're already in love with him at that point. That's the goal. In Keima's own words, he can already see the ending. That's his catchphrase. Fantastic catchphrase, by the way. An ending being the end of a girl's route in a galgay. And so...
Does Galgame mean Gal Game? Is that what it's referring to?
I think so, yeah. Or Beaster's Drill game.
Oh, okay.
It's a game with beautiful girls in it.
Oh.
I actually... The entirety of Word Golly Knows is just a love letter to people who play visual novels, dating sims, gal games, the entire... Like, I don't think you play them, Spencer, but I play them... And I enjoy them.
You know, it's not a love letter.
What?
If her flag breaks.
We're not.
I don't like that anime.
We'll get to that in the recap portion.
Don't like it.
We're talking about what Godly knows right now. Dropped it. Okay, so as I was saying, you get some hintings that after girls fall in love with him and had her mind erased, or her memories erased of Keima and the conquest in general, some of them will stare at him from like across the room, but they don't know why they're doing it. So there's kind of like hintings of.
You can tell there's something like. Not that their brain forgot, but their body or their heart remembered. You can tell.
Yeah.
And you kind of feel it too. You've watched anime series where it's like that, and forgetfulness is forced upon characters, and you feel it like Noragami a little bit, you know? Where she sort of kind of remembered what was going on, or there's this lingering, or she was crying. That scene in Noragami where she was crying and she didn't know why, that's kind of what...
Yeah, not that intense, but yeah.
But it's kind of what the girls probably are feeling, right?
Yeah. I guess we should go over the main girls of the conquest who come in at the goddess arc. So we already talked about Ayumi is one of them. Yui is another. Shiori is another, who's the bookworm archetype.
The bookworm.
Yeah. And she was actually personally my favorite girl of the series. I liked her the best. Thought she was the most adorable. Which is funny because I hate the bookworm archetype in dating in visual novels. I absolutely hate that character. I hate going down that route. But Shiori just kind of, I don't know. I really liked her. And the other one is Tsukio. I believe that's her name. She's the one who was obsessed with the moon all the time, and she had the doll that she called Luna. I'm pretty sure her name was Tsukio.
She was the classic small.
She was
Oh,
she was like Keima's age, and she was super tiny. And...
there was another blonde girl who wasn't a goddess, and he conquered her, right?
Are you talking about the fake rich girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked that one, but it's so weird because the anime took time to build up a girl like that who had no plot value in the end of the season.
Yeah. No, that's not true. They cut it out of the anime, but she does come back in the manga. During Yui's conquest, when
I would have read that. Then.
You should have read that.
Oh wait, she comes back because they're rich.
It was a bit of a throwaway scene. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
She comes back a few times. Yui's conquest. The reason why I say it's the best is because Keima switches bodies with Yui.
Funniest for sure.
And being someone who's still obsessed with Galgay, he goes to buy some in Yui's body, and he finds dating sims made for women. So it's a reverse harem where it's one girl and you have multiple men to conquest. And Elsie walks in on him just playing hundreds of these games, and him being obsessed with all these men. And she's like, "What is wrong with you?" And Keima's like, "I can quit whenever I want." And then he's like, "But this guy's so nice. I just have to get to his ending." It's just so funny. And then meanwhile, in Keima's body, Yui is like making his life better. Like he's getting along with women and everything. And then when they switch back, he has to ruin it all. Keima does his best to stay away from women in general. He just doesn't want relationships.
Well, because it would take up time from him actually playing games.
Yeah. There's a character called June who's a substitute teacher or a student teacher that shows up. And her big thing, every girl in this anime has a thing, like a problem that they need fixing.
Oh, I remember June.
And June's problem was that she wanted to fix people. She really wanted to help people out. And whatever she thought was kind of like unusual in them, she wanted to get rid of. For Keima, she wanted to get rid of his game playing. She's like, "Oh, he plays games all the time. He must be a delinquent." And I'm not gonna go over the conquest, but Keima himself, he just says, "Look, I play games because I like it. I'm not a prom student. I do well in school. Everything's fine with me. I don't need fixing." And that's the truth. He, in most regards, he doesn't. He's a fine person who just shuts himself from the world because he doesn't care about the world.
He's actually a really sensitive guy in that aspect, and he thinks things through. And the fact that he's one of those anime characters that will get really good grades, tries really hard just so he can do the thing he likes. I don't know why people were running all over him. I think that he was doing fine.
He he would say harsh comments to people time and time again, and I think that's why they didn't like him.
I've had that. I mean, when I've carved out an afternoon to watch anime and people like knock on my door or like try to call me and stuff like that, not my fiance, but anybody else.
She's exempt from that.
Potentially. I all of a sudden was like, you what I mean? You get into this zone where you're watching or playing or doing something and then someone interrupts you. I understand why he would get mad.
Speaking of zones, Keima has like a conquest mode that he goes into. In the anime, they portray it so beautifully, where he like suddenly gets like 10 arms and like gets a golden aura, and he's able to play like 20 games at once. And I think he calls it the conquest mode, where he just needs to catch up on all the games that he gets backlogged when he's doing his conquest. That's the worst part of these conquests is they stop him from playing games, and that's why he hates them. Other than having to talk to women.
And he needs to play games to actually regenerate some of his energy. There are times where he couldn't play, and he would look like a skeleton. It's funny. I just love the way the art portrays the humor, especially when they scrunch the characters down. Especially Keima into like the chibi version of him.
Yeah,
those gags really get me.
The art is fantastic. This series is so funny. So we were talking about the people who were the girls who were reoccurring. The last one, I think. So the last one is Tenri.
Yeah.
Tenri was Keima's childhood friend who came back. She actually had an OVA for the anime.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she didn't actually get episodes. She got 2 OVAs dedicated to herself. And
she is slightly important.
Yeah, well, just a little important.
Just slightly.
So she's Keima's childhood friend, and she's the one who really gets the entire plot going. She's a driving force. Her thing was to Keima anyway, she was kind of schizophrenic because she would be really timid sometimes, and other times she would like push him downstairs or kick him in the face, and Keima would just be like, "What is your problem?"
But she wasn't one of those girls who rage pushed. She was one of those shy girls that would like hide her face and push.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
She was also a magician, which was hilarious.
I don't remember that.
It's like it just.
I do remember that.
Do you remember when Keima was all sad?
He taught her that so that she could conquer her shyness. Right?
Did he?
I think so. Something like that.
I can't remember.
She did something for the magic for him. That was why.
Yeah, but it's just a small bit of a character, but it's really cute.
I was kind of cheering for Tenri.
The thing, Tenri, I like her. I didn't like her when she showed up. It took like a long time for me to. When you finally find out more about her, then I started to really like her. And that makes me feel so sorry for her. When we find out what happens at the end of the series, I feel so bad for the girl.
She waited so long.
Even though I wanted him to end up with Ayumi, I felt so bad for Tenri. Just what happened. We'll get to that though.
What happens next, I personally think, just like Hitman Reborn, I feel like I'm not going to say the mangaka didn't have a plan, but I mean, in Hitman Reborn, she was it a girl who did Hitman Reborn?
Yeah, I think so.
She was doing her best to do like a slice of life. He does like gets shot by the desperation pill. Everything's all good. But all of a sudden, like, it turned into a battle manga. And I was like, where the heck did this come from?
It was so much better as a battle manga.
It was so much better as a battle manga.
It worked so much better.
I feel like, even though the genre didn't change that much, I feel like The World God Only Knows took a very big turn when the Goddess arc came in.
It took a step back from the comedy. It came back, and when it went after the Goddess arc, when it went to the next arc, but during the Goddess arc, it was very serious.
Well, you know what happens in anime. Like, the first 3 episodes, they're filled with a lot of character building, so it feels lighter, funnier. All of a sudden, you get into it's like, I'm not going to reference Noragami again, but Noragami was an anime where it started off super light.
You just said you were not going to reference Noragami, and you're referencing Noragami.
I did it the second time. I'm just trying not, you know what I mean? But Noragami started off light. It's an example. Started off light-hearted, funny. That humor disappeared in the last couple episodes when it got real serious.
Yeah.
That's why animes need second seasons. And this one had it. But I mean, I feel like The World God Only Knows, we'll get to the ending, I just feel like it could have used a little more buffer to finish.
From what I've heard, I've read that the creator really wanted to do a battle series, but he didn't want it, or she, I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman, did not want to do it in God Only Knows because that would ruin Keima's character to turn him into a battle character because he's nothing like that.
Well, I'm glad they
And
didn't.
so they
They
wanted,
didn't.
he or she wanted to end the series, this is just what I've heard, so they can move on to do a battle series.
I can see that.
And it makes sense. I mean, it's been going for 6 years.
I mean, don't hate me, but most of my mangaka understanding of how things work comes from Bakuman, and it's pretty high. It's pretty realistic.
if you say so.
They in that series they end it. You watch it? You read it, and you said it was boring.
Yeah, it was really boring.
It was great. It's a great anime series. You should.
It might be better than anime.
That romance is probably one of the cutest innocent romances I've ever seen.
It was a terrible romance.
Better than Kimi no Todoke.
It was so lame.
It's super sweet. It's the kind of romance that like I kind of had, you know? There's like
What?
Well, you know.
It was nothing like yours.
Well, we're not talking about the first girl. I'm talking about like I found my fiance and we dated and then she's the first girl I ever officially dated and then we got married. We're getting married.
Officially. I'm using air quotes here.
I never even held that other girl's hand. That doesn't even count. We're not going to get into how much of an awkward relationship
I can't
that
believe you
was.
tore that notebook apart. I really wanted to read it.
We're not going to get into that, okay? I didn't want you to know reading a gross notebook for my tweens. That's disgusting.
It would have been really interesting.
Anyways, all I'm saying
For me,
is
anyway.
I have no idea what I'm saying. I don't remember. The battle manga. I just feel like they stop it when they don't want to. And you know what? We're fans of a work that someone is pouring his or her passion into. And we have to give them the credit to finish wherever they feel like they need to finish. I don't want someone who has this much talent wasting away because we want more. And I know I felt like I wanted more.
I was satisfied with the ending of Godliness.
Now that I think about it, I'm okay with it too. Just because if she or he makes a better manga, I will read it.
So, someone we didn't talk about, who actually turns out to be very important in the very last arc, Keima's homeroom teacher. I think she's his homeroom teacher. Nikaido. She's always just busting his balls and taking away his PFPs, and he always has spares. Basically, she just will not let him get away with what he wants. And she's like the bane of his existence at school. Any other teacher will like bow down to him because he gets good grades. But Nikaido's like, no games in my class. She'll smack him upside the head.
Well, it's funny because
pretty funny.
she was such a classic homeroom teacher that I didn't really pay much attention to her.
You really didn't expect her to be an important character.
Yeah, it was quite good. It was quite good twist.
So with the goddess arc, like I was talking about Tenri, you find out that there's actually a goddess in her. That's why it's called the goddess arc. And the goddess named Diana is the one who's always like punching Keima. Well, not always, but most of the time. She's mad at Keima because he doesn't remember Tenri, and Tenri's been in love with him for like 10 years.
Oh, Diana, yeah.
Yeah, so Diana she basically drives the story saying there's multiple goddesses. I think there's 5 in total. I think I named 5 girls. And you have to unlock each of them and bring us together, and we'll basically seal all the devils that are coming out.
Did the unlocking process have anything to do with reconquering?
Pretty much he had to reconquer them because he had to bring remember, they're fueled by love. The goddesses are fueled by love, and they get more power the more love their host feels for Keima.
I did like this manga series, but I'm not gonna lie. When the conquesting was over and the goddesses got introduced, I kind of began to not click it every week when it would pop up on my Manga Rock app or whatever on my iPhone. Like, it would be like, oh, you have a new thing. And I'd be like, and that's kind of sad for me. You know what I mean? I really liked it. But
it was opposite for me. I got more into it.
Really?
Now that it had a concrete plot, like every week I was like, yes, I want to see Keima succeed. I want to see what he's going to do.
I'm a huge fan of slice of life.
You like slice of life more than I do.
I just wish I could find a series that would go on forever but would never get boring.
You know what anime felt like that for me? Nichijou.
Oh, Nichijou.
Nichijou felt like it would, like, every episode felt like I was watching 10 episodes. Like,
Nichijou was so good.
I was like, when is this anime going to end?
There was 10 episodes in every episode.
Nichijou was, anyway, I dropped that.
That deer.
That was the best part. That's the best thing Nichijou's ever done.
Yo.
Honestly.
Wait, you dropped Nichijou?
Yeah, of course.
You never finished it?
No, there's no way I can finish that thing. It kills me.
You missed the absolute, like, that. You did what?
I can't finish it. It's too much.
You seriously dropped Nichijou?
Yeah. It's like Lucky Star. It's too much for me to handle. It's too much slice of life. I can't handle it. Hey, you caught a lot of flack from our fans for dropping Witchcraft Works and the like.
No. I caught a lot of flack from not following the fabled 3-episode rule.
You don't have to follow that if you don't want to.
And I didn't. That's what I caught flack for. People just got mad at me for dropping a series only because the girl had big boobs. And that was a lie. You misinterpreted my character. I can name 3 anime series that I'm watching right now that I am overlooking such things for the betterment of the community.
I'm not going to call you out on that. Back to where we talking about. Another character we didn't mention, Hakwa. What do you feel? How'd you feel about Hakwa?
I liked her better than Elsie.
Well, she was more competent.
Hakwa is the classic.
She's a Soon.
Yeah. You have nothing. We say Soon, you immediately know she's got that voice. You all know what voice we're talking about. She has that character where she's assertive, but she will avoid affection. And she kind of was acting as the older sister kind of to Alicia. Or
Alicia?
I don't know.
Elsie. You literally just said her name like 10 seconds
Well, her
ago.
name is like Alucia there.
Oh, that's her full name that nobody can say properly.
I tried to say it.
Sure. Hakwa is... I didn't really care for her. I was kind of neutral towards her until the goddess arc where she actually had something to do. Mm-hmm. And then when she became like the center of the action in the goddess arc. And that was really cool. Then I was like, yeah, I like her. I never really found her. Both her and Elsie, I never thought were legitimate love interests for Keima. Elsie was always very much the little sister character. He always treated her like a sister.
Yeah.
And Hakwa, they always seem to have more of a, at least for Keima, it was more of a professional work relationship.
What about that other girl, the tan girl?
Nora?
Yeah.
Same thing for Keima. Actually, I think Keima just found her someone he could use to get what he needs. So Keima's overall goal in the goddess arc was to get the goddesses together so they could seal New Hell or something like that. There was a group who was named Vintage who was out to kill the goddesses. And Keima really didn't care about the goddesses at first. He was like, Diana, this is your job. This is your mess. I'm just going to go capture girls like I need to. And she's like, yeah, the goddesses are girls you've already captured and all their memories will have returned to them. And Keima's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was... Yeah.
Because that just ruins everything. In Keima's own words, he's like, I can't capture girls if they're girls I've already captured because it'll just ruin everything. They'll interfere.
Yeah, I don't even remember how he did it now that I think about it.
And so he set up this entire schedule with Hakwa of like, I'm going to go to this girl this time and try to like increase my love points all at once.
He was like 5 timing.
It was great. Just the way he was trying to do it.
It's impressive.
It was impressive. Some girls were more receptive to it than others. Tsukio was her goddess. I don't remember goddess's name. Most of the goddesses' names I don't remember. But maybe it was Minerva. Or maybe that was Shiori's goddess. Basically, Tsukio's goddess was like, he's a man who will lay his hand on any woman. I won't let him near you. But he easily won over Tsukio. She was the fastest one for him to reconquer.
Yeah.
And she was also the first one to grow wings, which really made Diana angry because Diana's like, so my sister has wings and I only have a halo. What did you do to her? Diana was like a very large source of comedy.
Jealous.
She was
funny.
You find out later that Diana actually falls for Keima, and then all of her sisters berate her. She's like, "You, a goddess, fell in love with a human who's literally 5 timing. What is wrong with you?" And she's like, "I can't help it." And then I was like, "Bravo, Keima! You conquered a goddess without even trying. Holy crap!"
You know what that felt like? That felt like in Harvest Moon when you successfully put a cucumber in the pond for 30 days, and then the harvest goddess would marry you. That felt pretty
You get
good.
married to a goddess in Harvest Moon?
Yep. But she wouldn't move in with you.
Okay.
You could just say hi to her.
Does it give any benefits?
You get to marry a goddess.
I mean,
I don't remember. I did it once a long time ago when I was young. But it just reminded me of that.
is a cucumber, 30 real life days?
Yeah. Well, 30 days in the game.
Okay.
A game every 5 seconds is 10 minutes or something like that. Or longer. I don't remember. It's been a long time, but I love that game.
I've never played a Harvest Moon game. I am the farmer here,
But
and farming doesn't quite interest me.
The Japanese can make anything happen.
I mean, they made basketball interesting and football interesting.
And tennis.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So Tenri, I really feel sorry for this character. I feel so bad for her. I can't get over it. Okay, so we capture Tsukio pretty easily. Tenri doesn't really have to do it because she came to him already. She's already in love with him, so he didn't really have to do anything. He did fake kiss her in her own little arc, which just made her fall even more in love with him. Who was next? Shiori was next, I think. She was the second easiest, I would say. She took a bit more effort. Shiori actually was really mad at Keima. Shiori does this thing where she likes to write her own novels, and every
Yeah.
one of her novels involved Keima dying because she was mad at him. So what he would do is take her novels away from her and rewrite them so that he gets resurrected. And so their entire conquest kind of happens through this narrative that they're writing themselves.
It was kind of cute. I like.
It was really cute. This is why I really like Shiori. And she's like, I never asked you to come back. Why did you keep coming back to life? And he just says something, cheesy, like, I came back for you. If you never asked me for come back, why do I keep dying? And so he reconquers her. That Shiori, not only being the most adorable girl, in my opinion, has the most adorable goddess. Her goddess is like 2 feet tall, and she's just this adorable little, like, looks like a kid. Do you remember her goddess?
No, I'm mixing it up with the doll goddess who's overpowered.
Yeah, you are, I guess. Anyway, her goddess is adorable. And then she came and went for, I don't remember. Who was next?
Did we get to the Chihiro confusion part?
Yui. It's Yui and then Chihiro.
Okay.
So he goes for Yui next. And Yui also has one of the best reconquests because the roles are completely flipped once again. Because Yui is, after the conquest, she's gotten so used to being in Keima's body, despite not remembering it, that she dresses like a man, she talks like a man. I think she uses ore when she talks about herself instead of watashi or boku. And so she's very masculine now. And so whenever she like grabs Keima when he comes to talk to her, and she like sits him on her lap, and she's like, you're such a beautiful young boy. And it just, like I said before, if you make the first move on Keima, he locks up. He doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
His brain just goes to mush, and he just can't do anything. She's completely in control.
He has to be in complete control in order to get anything done.
And Yui buys him like this dress. And but that comes later. Actually, what Keima does is he's like, the only way to beat a crossdresser is to become a crossdresser. And so he puts on a girl's school uniform because Yui wears a guy's school uniform, and he puts on a wig. And Yui, like, he makes it so that Yui catches like a glimpse of him, and he runs away from her. And so he basically creates a conquest for Yui to complete. And it's a really cool mini arc, I would say.
Yeah.
I love Yui. She's so funny. And actually, during the entire goddess arc, he doesn't say his catchphrase, I can see the ending. In both the manga and the anime, when he's capturing a girl, when you know it's coming to an end or coming to a climax, where he like tilts his glasses or pushes his glasses up and he says, I can already see the ending. And he hasn't done that the entire arc for the goddesses, except for when he's doing Yui, when he's capturing Yui. He does it again. Hakua's with him. And he says, after he says his line, I can see the ending, and he says, it's been a while. And then Hakua's like, I don't care. Like, you know what it's like? I love this manga. I love this series. Something we failed to mention. Another goddess was in Canon.
Oh,
We completely forgot to mention Canon. Here's why I didn't mention Canon, or forgot to. I don't like idols. I don't like idol anime. I'm going to catch some flack for that, but I don't like idol anime. And I don't like idols in general.
The only idol anime that I ever watched was Skip Beat. I think that's what it's called. And it was a really good one because it was about a girl who was just kind of a down-to-earth girl. Wasn't as preppy poppy as all of the others. And she kind of made her way into the industry being herself and kind of changing it that way. I like that one because it wasn't really a prissy girl and like, Hatsune Miku kind of thing. It was like a different, I don't know, it was really interesting.
I think Skippy was shoujo, which is why I ignored it. Generally, if it's shoujo, I ignore it.
Skip Beat, the anime ended when I wish it had continued, but I bet I could pick it up right where it left off in the manga if I ever had the willpower.
Speaking of shoujo, the best shoujo series I've ever seen to this day, and every guy agrees with me. At least, so I mean, I'm going to see if you agree with me here.
Sakura Card Captor?
No, not card captors. Or in High School Host Club.
Wait, that's a shoujo?
Yeah.
That was like the first anime I ever watched.
Isn't it like the greatest shoujo ever? It's so good.
Near and dear to my heart.
It's so good. It's any guy I talk to is like, yeah, that's a classic.
Yep.
You have to watch it. It's so good.
It's very good, actually.
Going back to God Only Knows now. Canon is an idol, like I said. She's one of Keima's first conquests. And she's actually the first one who remembers him. And she like leaps into his arms and says, she confesses to him, like, I'm in love with you. And then Keima's like, okay, let's go talk. And he like takes her away. Canon's goddess, Mercury, maybe Apollo.
They were all named after Roman gods, I think.
Yeah, it's either Mercury or Apollo. I think it's Mercury. She thinks she can protect Canon on her own. Pretty good guess. I mean, she's a goddamn goddess, right? So she like shoves Keima away. She's like, we don't need you, and she runs away. And then she gets stabbed by Vintage. So
yeah, that's the first time in the manga that things got violent.
That was the first time. No, not the first time they got violent, but the first time they got dark.
Dark violent. I mean,
Yeah.
like blood, almost what the heck's going on kind of dark.
Like there was actually a big looming danger that she was gonna die.
Yeah.
This entire goddess arc, Keima has a time limit. If he doesn't collect all the goddesses before Canon, or like before I think it's like 3 days, Canon will die. When she got stabbed, they like injected some dark demon magic, which is like poison, and the goddess inside her is keeping her alive, but barely.
Yeah, I remember that. You know what? Yeah, okay. Now that I'm remembering it, I did like the goddess arc. Now that I'm remembering the different like aspects to it, this is why I like hanging out with you. You describe things in a very good way that makes me remember.
You asked me to recap Valve season 2 for you because you said you weren't gonna watch it, and then I recapped it for you, and you're like, that sounds like an anime I would watch, and I'm like, yeah, I know you did watch the first season, and you're like, yeah, but I'm not gonna watch it.
There are times, however, where your description of what's gonna happen is much cooler than what actually happens on the screen. Like when you recap The World Is Still Beautiful to me, you're like in the last podcast, I was like, I'm actually really excited to watch this. I watched it. It's good, but you made it sound so much cooler. Like the look in his eyes when he looked back at the camera, like saying like, oh, this is going to be fun. Wasn't as cool as when you had said it. I kind of wish that I had just kept it close to my heart.
I guess I just interpret things.
No, I like it. I don't stop it, but it's just funny.
So Canon's another goddess, or she has another goddess inside her. Keima's trying to capture things, or capture girls, recapture girls. And we were talking about Yui's conquest. Ends with a sword fight. Didn't expect that. It was pretty nice.
Yeah.
So he finishes the Yui capture, and then he has one goddess left, and he knows it's either inside Ayumi or it's inside Chihiro.
Yeah.
Chihiro being Ayumi's best friend.
And he conquered at one
Both of
point
them.
both of them.
And the thing is, he knows because they're best friends, if he tries to conquer one of them, the other will know. And so conquering them at the same time is pretty much impossible. Because if the other finds out, it'll ruin it. So he has to make a choice. He does actually try both at once, but it gets to the point where it does become impossible for him. And he has to make a choice between Ayumi or Chihiro, and he chooses Chihiro. He just feels like the goddess is more likely to go into Chihiro. And so there's a school festival. This is I think either the last night. Yeah, it's the day turning into the final night that he has to finish this thing before Canon dies. And it's at a school cultural festival, I think, and Chihiro's his date. And they have this entire date. I'm talking about the anime here. It's where it's more, what's the word?
Vivid?
Vivid, yes. Yeah. It's more vivid in my mind in the anime because I feel like the anime got this much better than the manga did.
Yeah.
The date between him and her is very sweet.
Yeah, it is.
It's really nice. And the episode, it ends with Keima trying to find a place where they can be alone so he can just finish the conquest, so he can confess to her. Fake confess, but still. He always ends with a confession. Actually, sometimes he begins with a confession, depending on the archetype of the girl.
Depending on what he wants to do. He just knows all the strategies and will put any into play.
That's the thing with Keima is he's always 2 steps ahead. He always has a plan. When a girl gets mad, it's because he wants them to get mad. Yeah. If a girl does something, it's because he wants them to do something.
There's only a few times that he's set off balance a little bit, but he usually fixes that.
That's why Yui was always a big challenge for him.
Yeah.
So like I said, the episode ends with Chihiro just kind of like tugs at his shirt. Like the typical anime tug. You know what I'm talking about.
You just did it to me, so I understand.
And she just she says in a really quiet voice, like, why don't we just go find a place alone together? Because like she's kind of against this. I when she sees this, she's a soon, but she's
the most level-headed girl in the entire
She's the most normal girl where she's not super affectionate, but she's not like super cold either.
That's because she's actually smart and not throwing herself all over a protagonist.
Well, anyway, that's where the episode ends, and I was like really sweet.
Yeah.
And
we're led to believe at this point it's going to be her.
Yeah. And then they go into the roof. Keima does this whole thing. He's about to kiss her. And then she says, "It's my first time." And then he kind of like giggles himself and he's like, "Wait, what?"
She didn't remember, yeah.
Because he had to kiss her in the original conquest.
She would only remember if she had a goddess.
That's right.
So that was like, oh.
Keima was suddenly in this situation. He has his body over a girl about to kiss her who does not have a goddess inside of her.
Which, for Keima, just probably wrecked all of his self-confidence.
They don't cover it much in the goddess arc, but the arc after it, it's amazing what they do with his character, and I really like it. But basically, he has to quickly, right away, undo everything he did. And the way he does it is such a horrible thing.
Yeah,
he hates himself for what he does here. He basically tells her, I was just messing with you. I don't actually like you. I have no feelings for you. This was just to get back at you.
It was
for
the
all the things
only
you did
way
to
that
me.
he could actually cut ties. But holy cow, it wrenched my heart.
It was brutal.
Was bad.
Watching Chihiro just break
Can
was
you imagine?
such a horrible thing.
Actually, I can't imagine.
I'm sorry I'm laughing here, Spencer, because I mean it was sad at the time, but looking back, it's kind of funny.
I'm glad that it happened, but I mean, yeah, I understand Chihiro's pain. It's kind of sucky.
You've experienced it firsthand.
I think a lot of people have actually getting tugged around.
Maybe.
You haven't? You have. You totally.
All right, this isn't the Raj and Spencer talking about their past relationships podcast. This is
I
Raj
guess
and Spencer
so.
talks about anime. Okay,
Yeah, that's what people came here for. I
they
forgot.
don't care about our past.
Forgive me while I dry my tear.
Well, you actually tried it.
It wasn't there. I was whatever.
During the time that Keima finds out that there's no goddess in Chihiro, we get a cut to Ayumi, who is busy crying her eyes out, and there's a goddess inside of her saying, "Don't cry. You did this to yourself." Actually,
The mangaka didn't need to show us that the goddess was in her, because he had narrowed down all the possibilities to just Chihiro or Ayumi.
Mm-hmm.
But they did. And so at this point, we're like, oh crap, he made a wrong decision. And the worst part is, he made the wrong decision and split best friends apart.
Yeah, because they were both in love with him. Actually, Chihiro's was actually legitimately in love with him, and he had to crush her real love.
Well, and we find out later, so was Ayumi. Like, all of them.
Well, they were all in love with him, but like he didn't have to foster Chihiro's love.
I always felt like Ayumi was the one who was, aside from Tenri, but the most flustered, I think, by the recollection of what he did. She was one of the only, besides like, because Shiori, the girl with the books.
Yeah, Shiori.
She was the one who was kind of writing it on the books the way she dealt with it the way she did. But I mean, all throughout the Goddess arc, Ayumi was the one who was the most frazzled, I feel.
She's the most emotionally vulnerable, I think, out of all the girls. She takes things to heart.
I just think she's one of the most innocent ones too.
Yeah, she was my favorite. Oh man, why didn't you end up with her, Keima? Damn it. All right, so
Spoiler.
after that, he just goes straight to Ayumi because he has no choice in this matter. It's like
He's running out of time.
He's got a few hours left.
Yeah.
Canon's gonna die. He has to save, or he has to conquer Ayumi. And this was also one of the better conquests just for sheer ridiculousness. I'm gonna skip over a bunch of it and just go straight to the ending. Actually, no, I can't do that because I have to talk about Chihiro.
Because I don't really remember it. So
Chihiro actually comes back to help him conquest Ayumi because she doesn't take being rejected lying down. Like, she's sad, and then she gets mad. She's like, I'm not going to stand by and let this guy play around with my feelings.
So she came to actually help him?
She comes to help him
Why would she do that if she was mad?
because he explained everything to her.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
He's like, I have to make Ayumi fall in love with me or bad things will happen. And then she sees demons fighting. She's like, yeah, that's probably the bad thing he was talking about. And the entire time she's invisible under Hakua's cloak. Hakua's pretty much guarding her, and so is Nora, because they both know stuff's gonna go down.
Yeah.
They have to help.
We're beginning to see the world of World God Only Knows unravel a little bit and kind of peek behind what's going on in New Hell and stuff.
Basically, Vintage has taken over New Hell. The leader in New Hell is called Dakuro's Skull, and is basically just a skeleton who wears a robe. And she, by the way, all inhabitants of Hell are women for some reason.
What do you mean for some reason?
Well,
Like,
okay, I know the reason. I'm gonna pretend I don't. But anyway, she's dead. She gets killed. New Hell gets pretty much taken over. There's a what's the word, like coup d'etat? I think that's what the word is.
a coup or whatever.
There's a coup, and I actually learned that word from an anime. I learned it from
Airbender.
No,
I learned it from Airbender.
I learned it from Code Geass. And then, like, because they said that word, I was like, that's the most retarded English I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, that can't be a real word. And I had to Google it. I was like, oh, it's French.
Well, I think I learned it from Airbender during the Earth, where he was in the Earth Kingdom.
Yeah, they called it a coup, though. They didn't say the full
Coup.
word.
Yeah, that's
the
why
coup
I only
d'etat.
ever say the coup.
Anyway, Haku was actually captured and then saved by Dakuro's skull before she dies. And then Dakuro gives her, like, this super epic scythe that Haku uses to, like, just... I won't say kill because you don't really see anybody die in this series, but let's use the word decimate other vintage demons.
Yeah.
And so Vintage is basically trying to destroy the new world and bring back old hell, which is just full of chaos, by releasing a bunch of old devils.
Because New Hell at this moment is a lot like Earth. It's run. There's a democracy. There's schools. Like, it's very structured.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want that gone.
Yeah, old hell is very chaotic, very much what you would think hell is like.
Yeah.
And so the people are trying to kill Keima and Ayumi, the vintages, at the same time they're trying to unlock these demons because it's going to happen. The only reason they want to go after the goddesses is because all the goddesses together can stop them, but if they kill one of them, their power is drastically reduced. And so in Keima's conquest, he does things like he steals Ayumi's underwear, and he's like, if you want these back, meet me at this park. He basically chooses like all the set pieces from any visual novel where you would end the route. Like he goes to the swing set, he goes to a park by a lake, like all these nice
I didn't
places.
know that.
Yeah, and then he's like, I'm running out of locations. I need to keep going because they're always on his tail. So he has to try to end the conquest fast, and it keeps ruining it. And eventually, Chihiro outs him to Ayumi, and she's like, Keima's just trying to get with you, but he's doing it for a good reason. That's what she tells him. And it kind of ruins everything Keima's done. The thing with Ayumi is she loves Keima and she actually wants to help him, but she wants him to ask her for help because Keima never asked for help.
Does she know about what's happening?
No.
Okay.
But she tells him later, like pretty much near the end of the conquest, like just ask me to help you and I'll help you. I want to help you.
Well, Keima doesn't ask for help, right?
He never asked for help. That's
Yeah.
Keima's thing, right? He likes to do things alone. And there's a funny thing where Ayumi's like, if you're serious about getting with me, you need to marry me. And then Keima gets mad because he says the marriage ending is the most serious ending in any galgay. You can't just say you're going to marry me.
I love how he got so... He's been 5, 6, 7 timing women all over the place. He pulls a jerk move to a girl seconds before her first kiss. And then he starts raging on the basis of video game morality.
I love it.
And he's so serious about it. And that's what makes Keima
I
awesome.
love Keima. Hey, you're going for the marriage ending.
I am. It is the most serious ending you can have.
And Keima's like, you have to be serious. And so Ayumi pulls him into her house, wakes up her parents in the middle of the night, and she's like, this is a guy I'm going to marry. And they start like bickering towards one each other. And her dad is very much like Mikage's dad in Silver Spoon. He's like, you're going to marry my daughter. And he gets really mad. But then he just sees them they're arguing like for, I would say like 20 minutes. And then he's just like, I'm going back to bed. And so they leave. And then Keima's like, okay, I have no choice. I'm pulling out all the stops. He walks in, or he rides in on a horse, holding a wedding dress, and he's like, "Let's have our ending." And that's how he like starts finishing conquest. He takes her to this boat. I think it's called Akanemaru. Akanemaru. I thought it was just a random boat, but then in the last arc, it plays a huge role. It makes no sense. That boat. And he lights up this boat into this giant wedding. He's like, okay, Vintage sees the boat. They're going to kill us. He's like, I have to marry her right now. And so they have this fake wedding. Ayumi's in her dress, and like it's like really sweet. And then as soon as they get married, Ayumi passes out, and then the goddess comes out because she got enough love. And so they're kind of, this is why I thought they were going to end up together. He gets married to her. I mean, it's fake, but he still gets married to her.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
And I was like, yes, Ayumi, you're going to end up with him.
I was actually waiting for them not to get married, to stop, but they actually went all the way through. I mean, there was no...
It was fake,
legal
but
stuff,
still, he got the, what do you call it? What did I just call it? The most serious ending.
Yeah, he did.
And then so Diana comes on angel wings, by the way, which is something that we need to talk about because the reason she could not unlock wings like all of her other sisters had is because her love for Keima was conflicting with Tenri's love. And so she couldn't get wings. And then Tenri says, it's like a very off panel, or it's not off panel, you get a panel for it. I didn't remember this. I had to actually reread the entire Goddess arc after I'd watched it because I was wondering why Tenri got her wings. And Tenri says to Diana, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen next. And like it's very like what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like we understand now.
Whoa.
And then that's why she had her wings. And so she comes flying in.
Holy cow, that happened?
Yeah.
They dropped that fat of a hint?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And so she picks up Ayumi's goddess. I'm sorry, I don't remember the names of the goddesses.
Holy cow.
I remember Ayumi's being Jupiter. And I remember Diana. That's it. And they go to this rock where all these demons are, and they just blow everything up. Also, it should be noted that any girls that Keima had captured beforehand had been kidnapped by Vintage in case there was a goddess in them. That includes every goddess except for Diana and Ayumi. So they free the other goddesses. They blow up everything. Kill the demons, seal it all up, free all the girls. Everything's good. And then they have there's a concert. There's a band that's formed by Chihiro, Ayumi, a mutual friend between the three of them, whose name I can't remember because she's kind of a minor character.
Is it that girl who showed up once?
She shows up a lot,
Oh,
but she's still a minor character. No, it's not. It's not Akari. That's someone else who's has a big. Oh, I forgot to talk about her. Anyway, we'll talk about it a little bit later. And Elsie's also in the band. Oh, we should say that at this time, Elsie has been faking being Canon so that nobody is like freaking out that Canon's gone.
Oh yeah, 'cause she can
Yeah.
disillusion people and stuff.
Yeah, with her magic scarf. So they all get together. They do their like whole band thing that they were gonna do, and then Chihiro's I think the singer of their group, and she's singing, and all the girls with goddesses, Chihiro suddenly sees their wings, and like some of the goddesses are watching in the crowd and stuff, and then Chihiro just breaks down crying on stage
Because she wasn't one of them?
because she couldn't get with Keima. Like Keima broke her heart, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
And that was sad. In the manga, I didn't really feel much. In the anime, this is why I said the anime portrays it better. I felt heartbroken for this girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt so bad for her. And then it cuts to Keima, and he's on a roof all alone in the dark. He's just saved the world, and he's crying.
Well, this is where the season starts winding down. I personally
This is the very end of the third season.
I thought it was over, actually. It could have ended there, actually.
That would have been a horrible ending. It would be so sad.
Well, they would have had a... Yeah, you're right, it would have been. That's why I don't write manga.
This is the fact that Keima feels so broken
Yeah, that was really sad.
over what he had to do to Chihiro, who was an innocent. Just it hurt him.
Okay, I'm changing my stance again. I really did like this manga.
There we go. Yes,
Now that
bring
I'm
you back.
remembering. Now that I'm remembering.
So, pretty much immediately after that, the next chapter, Keima's kind of, it's kind of I'm not gonna use the word wrap up, but something happens where it's kind of weird, paced weirdly in the manga. This is where the anime ends, by the way. I'm just gonna say right here, spoiler warning. Anything after the goddess arc, I'm gonna consider spoilers because the goddess arc finished like a year ago, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
And the manga just finished last week. So
Well, I just realized that for anybody who had never read One Piece yet, you did a major spoil last podcast. Like,
Death Face,
again, you just did another.
but he died in the anime, didn't he?
Yeah, but people may not have even seen that
But it's
yet.
been like 2 years since he's died in the anime.
It doesn't really matter.
It's 2 years. Get it? I don't care.
Well, I mean, oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, I spoiled that he doesn't get with Ayumi, but whatever. Right here, right now, I'm saying if you like Garlinos, you should because it's awesome. Wait for a fourth season if you want an anime. I don't know if it's gonna get a fourth season. I really hope it does. Or read the manga.
I really, really, really want to watch this season animated because I got so lost.
Really?
I got so lost.
I can understand why. It was pretty long.
I got so yeah.
This last arc, the final arc after the goddess arc, it's gonna be complete spoilers. We're gonna go through pretty much everything. If you're interested in Garlinos, please stop here or skip to our recap portion. Or otherwise, continue if you've seen it or you don't mind being spoiled. So the arc after is a time travel arc, actually. Not very much is explained to Keima, but he's whisked away by Tenri. And she says, you don't have much time. You have to go save a girl in the past. And Keima's actually been having these weird flashes. Like, the world around him changes. It's really weird. It's a source of dark magic or some kind of magic. I think there was a couple chapters in the manga dedicated to it where like suddenly the school he went to was an all-male school, but he still had to capture people, but so he had to capture men now. And so like Elsie, who is now a dude, is like, come on, brother, we have to go capture them with gay love. And then Kane was like, no! And then like it just shifts into another, like it kept shifting. Everything kept changing. It turned into an all-girls school at one point, and then like every girl in the school started beating him up. There's like, he's a pervert, he's in an all-girls school. And then like he sees a girl under a tree. And this girl starts aging in reverse. She turns into a baby and then she disappears. And then Tenri says, you have to save a girl and you already know who she is. You've probably already seen her. And Keima has like a little flash of that girl that he saw under the tree. And then he's like, so where am I going? And she's like in the past. All the goddesses get together and they said they're sending him on a journey. And so Keima's teleported 10 years into the past. Into his childhood body. It's actually revealed that his consciousness is swapped. So his 10-year-old Keima is inside 17-year-old Keima's body.
Which, surprisingly, is almost exactly the same as who he is now, minus his lack of socials. His skills of talking. I mean...
It's pretty much the same character.
He just wants to play games all the time.
It's great.
He's actually super impressed by his setup.
He is. The funniest part of this arc is whenever they cut back to Kid Keima and adult Keima's body. Because the entire time, the goddesses have to protect his body. Because if it's destroyed, he can't come back. And so they're like, okay, each girl gets a rotation with Keima. And so each girl tries to like make Keima fall in love with him as he's 10 years old. So when he grows up, he'll still be in love with him. And I think
It was good.
it's
I liked
so
it when
funny.
I liked it when this side plot was going on.
The side plot was great. Yui's especially, again, she just has the best arcs. Hers was hilarious where she was really smart. She's like, I'm going to give him any game he wants. She gets like this entire setup.
Well, she's rich, right?
Yeah, and she's like, you play your heart's content. Keima's like, oh, you're amazing. And like he starts playing games and then like Yui's mom comes. She's like, why is this boy in your room? And she like grabs a generator for Keima and like throws it on the roof. She's like, go play your games on the roof. And he's playing his games on the roof. And then Yui's like, I'll get you anything you want. I'll always protect you. And then she's like, it's working. You'll fall in love with me. And Keima's like, thanks a lot, bro. And then Yui's like, her face is like crushed. She's like, no, it's not like that. And then her rotation ends. So then he's taken away by Shiori.
It's her fault, though. I mean, if she dressed like a girl for once in her life, she would actually be able to. Oh, that was
It's
funny.
so funny. I love it. So, and that happens like with all the girls. Actually, when it comes to Ayumi's rotation, it gets more serious because that's actually it. When the Ayumi's rotation comes, it's winding down on Keima what he's doing in the past. So in the past, basically, he and Elsie both go into the past. I don't know how Elsie gets there, but
She's a devil, whatever.
whatever. She gets there. He really needs her because she's like, so his support. He something happens where he's like, okay, I can't leave the house because my mom will force me to go into bed because he's 10 years old or 7 years old. And he's like, I know, I'll just wait for her to fall asleep. And then he's like struggling to stay awake. It's like the child or the body of a child is not easy to stay up all night with. And then it's just like comedy moments like that. But it gets serious where he finally meets the girl. She flings herself. He meets her on the boat, by the way, that we talked about earlier. Akanemaru, I think it's called. She flings herself off the boat, impales herself, and she's dead. Keima failed. And he's like, what?
I was like, what? I was like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah. And Keima actually has this orb, which has a bunch of lines on it.
It kind of came with him.
Yeah.
He just was holding it.
And so the orb, one of the lines disappears and the world resets. You find, I mean, if you have half a brain, you find out really easily that's the amount of retries he has to save the girl. I think he fails one more time, but because he does save her from dying, but then she starts reverse aging. And when she ages back into nothingness, he fails again. And he's like, how do I keep this girl in this world? And he does it the only way he knows how. He kisses her. And then that stops her from aging. And then he's like, okay, I saved her. Now what? Because he has no idea what to do. Tenri didn't tell him anything. The girl he saved, who calls herself Dokuro, the same name as the chief of New Hell.
Dokuro skull, yeah.
Except there's no skull in this girl's name. She just calls herself Dokuro.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know anything. She starts calling him Oni-chan because that's what Elsie calls him, a kami-ni-sama, like divine older brother or godly older brother. And so she just calls him Oni-chan too. It's really cute. And so Keima's like, okay, I don't know what to do. Like,
But she's not a child. She's
Dokuro's, no, she's much older.
teenager?
She's definitely a teenager.
Yeah.
She's probably at least 12.
yeah,
At least preteen.
at least preteen.
At least.
That's a developed preteen.
Dokuro wasn't busty. Was she? I don't recall.
Well, they had a bathtub scene. She must have at least had something for the Japanese to put them in that situation.
But she was not. She had her clothes on that scene.
Really?
Do you not remember? She had nothing on her bottom.
Oh.
That's because when she climbed in the window, her skirt got cut.
Yeah.
And the king was like, just put on some pants.
That's kind of main character that's pretty funny. Like, he doesn't ever give in to that. He's just always... It's just because he doesn't care about 3D girls, pretty much.
I think...
we thought.
No, it affects him when it's someone he doesn't have a relationship that he's set in with. For example, when he walked in on Hakuwa naked, he didn't care. Like I said... Excuse me, I'm going to burp here. Excuse me. Like he said... or like I said, he has a strictly professional relationship with Hakuwa. And so when he he walked in on her naked, it didn't matter to him. It meant nothing. Anyway,
You do know I can edit things out.
oh, you can edit the burp out?
Well, I could have, but you probably, ran your sentence into the burp, so I don't know what I'm going to do now.
You can keep it in or edit it. I don't
You've
mind.
caused pain for your editor. Thank you.
You barely had to do any editing for this podcast. Don't even. Don't even. Our post-production is so low.
I have to put those crazy ending and opening songs on, man. You have no idea.
People are really happy with our ending song.
I like it. It fits so well.
But then nobody said anything about our opening music.
It's fine. It's long. You know what? A good thing goes unnoticed because it's not bad. Write that down.
So if I don't notice your wedding by not attending it, will that be a good thing?
You're in the wedding party. You need to be there. There will be an empty seat. that I could have put somebody else in?
You know, I've asked you this before, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I'm going to ask again anyway.
You're not going to ask that question you asked me last night.
No.
Oh my
Can I
goodness.
bring a date?
How do I answer such a hypothetical question?
What? Oh, that hurts.
Well, no, that's not what I mean. I don't mean to hurt you, but like, you don't have anybody.
Oh, that hurts.
You're
a horrible person.
I didn't mean it like that. You just don't have anybody. Like, there's nobody.
It's like 2 months I can...
I guess so. Yeah, she could come.
Okay.
Is she going to be outside of a computer screen?
Hold on to that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm like Keima. I'm into the 3D, all right?
No. But look, the last girl.
No, don't talk about that, okay?
So, anyways, there's Dokuro, and she is a teenager who doesn't know anything.
We've already covered this.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get back on track here, man.
Keima doesn't know what to do, so he goes to school. Mostly because his mom makes him go to school. He can't really defy his mother as a 7-year-old. So he goes to school, and he remembers one of the big events. The event where he actually... Basically, when he was a kid, he accidentally unleashed all the devils along with Tenri. And that's where Tenri also got her goddess. See, this is all explained in Tenri's little arc. And so that happened during like a trip to the beach. And he finds out the trip to the beach is canceled. And he's like, that's not right, because if the trip to the beach is canceled, Tenri doesn't get her goddess. If she doesn't get her goddess, the whole goddess arc never happens. That's not right. And he figures, okay, I need to get this on the road. So he actually ends up meeting this girl in his class named Shiratori. That's her last name. I think her first name is Urara. I think it's Urara.
Oh, I remember this girl.
I'll just call her Shiratori. She basically is obsessed with being like a grown-up. She like brings a makeup bag and stuff. And Keima finds out very quickly that her grandfather is doing construction on the beach, which is why the beach trip is canceled. So his goal is to get to the grandfather through her. And the way they do it is really weird, which I did not see coming. Because she's obsessed with being adult, first of all, the most adult thing he can think of is kissing. So he makes it so that she catches him kissing Dokuro. He has to kiss her regularly or she'll turn into a kid again and disappear and reset everything.
Yeah.
And so she catches him doing that. She's like, how adult-like. And suddenly she's like into Keima because he's an adult. And so she brings a porn magazine to school.
Oh, I remember this. This was weird.
And
this was
she's
out
like,
of left field, man.
And she's like, will you do the things in this magazine with me? Or will you imitate
Yeah,
them?
this was weird.
And then she's like, I heard only adults do these things. And Cam was like, oh God. But you find out it was all part of his plan. He's like, okay. He's like, listen, we'll start doing these things, but we'll probably get interrupted. So when we get interrupted, I want you to scream. She's like, why would I do that? He's like, just trust me. Basically, what he wanted to do is get in trouble for sexually harassing her, even though he didn't do anything, so that her uncle or her grandfather would come and like talk to her.
Wouldn't anybody in their right mind have second thoughts about doing this?
Well, you're assuming Ken was in his right mind.
I guess so. I mean, being sent back in time to my 10-year-old body, I would feel pretty invincible too, actually.
Yeah.
Especially with a reset function.
He has a limited number.
Well, fair enough, but I mean, you have one.
So, long story short, I'm going to skip a bunch of this. Basically, he ends up having to conquer Shiratori because she has a spirit inside of her, or a loose soul rather. And that the conquest is okay. It's I think it's the final conquest. No, it's the second last conquest of the entire series, and it's okay. Like I said, it's okay. There have been a lot better ones, so we're not really going to talk too much in depth about it. But after that, they become good friends. He pretends to be an alien from outer space. I think he says he's like from the planet Keima or something.
Yeah.
And she's a kid, so she buys it. He actually meets Yui and the other fake rich girl, who's actually still rich at this time. And the fake rich girl's the only one who doesn't buy into it. She's like, why would an alien crash land here? And why is he talking to us? And he's like, why is she so like smart? He's like, just buy it, goddammit. Anyway, he gets to the uncle, I keep calling him an uncle. Her grandfather looks really young. He looks like he's in his like 20s. And you find out that his son, who is Shiratori's father, and along with her mother, were killed by demons, by devils. And so he knows that devils are coming back. Somehow, I can't remember how, but he knows. So the entire construction is a defensive fort and defensive measures against these demons. And Keima was like, this isn't going to work. And the old man's like, I'm not going to talk to a 7-year-old. And then he goes and does his own thing. And so Keima follows him to the cave, and Vintage attacks. And he has like all these armed guards, and they get cut in half. They're destroyed. Shiratori himself, the grandfather, is also killed. And Keima's like, oh my god, this is not good.
Yeah.
And then Dokuro comes because Keima's about to die, and she just kills the other devil. She wrecks them. And then she's like, make sure this never happens again. And then he resets. And Keima's like, that's his final reset too.
Yeah.
And Keima's like, this is it. I have one chance to fix everything. Because he realizes that if he doesn't get this right, the past and the present are going to be two different things.
And he'll
if
never get back.
He'll never go back to
Yeah,
his
because
body.
he'll lose his connection with the goddesses in the future, and he'll never get back.
Exactly. And so he goes back to the old man, and he actually convinces him, like, this is not going to work. You will die. And he uses his knowledge from the previous reset, the previous iteration, to get him on his side. And so now Keima's basically got to figure out how to... Oh, no. So what happens is he goes to this school, and then some of these schools
I hate this arc.
been taken over by girls.
This mini arc is stupid.
The one with the girls?
It has no plot value.
It does.
Not that much.
The entire reason for this was for Tenri to fall in love with Keima.
I know, but it was stupid. Like, it was so weird. This is kind of where I was, like, I liked it, and then I got really frustrated here because I was like, what is this?
It was a weird aside.
What is this? Like, it was silly. I just it didn't strike me as good. It was not good. It's definitely the lowest point in this manga. You have to agree. It wasn't good. It was lame.
I don't think it's the lowest point. There were conquests that I disliked a lot more than this one. The girl who played shogi or whatever, I didn't like her at all. The one where he worked in like a Chinese noodle shop, that one was
Oh, I forgot about all those.
because they're just throwaway conquests, right? This one, I liked it because it was better than the conquest of Shiratori, of the girl.
Yeah, so you're comparing it to the...
So for me, it was a step up, but overall, I agree, it's a step down
It was
from
just not... I don't know.
But basically, what happened is the girls have completely taken over the school. All boys and teachers, regardless of gender, are like passed out. Keima being the one exception. And the girls have this ranking system where they rank in popularity. And basically, it's the girls like trying to become number one, except they can't be number one because everybody admires the number one girl. They're like, oh, I can never be like her. And so Keima's like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to get kidnapped by girls. So he cross-dresses this entire arc as a girl, which I'm guessing is easier to do as a 7-year-old than a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
But then again, Keima's not exactly masculine in the first place.
He's very thin and he pulled it off quite well.
Yeah. So his goal is like, because because he's a boy, he doesn't have any numbers on his hand. All girls have numbers on their hand that designate the rank of all the girls in the school. So Tenri also did not have a number, I think. But that's because Tenri didn't give a crap about her rank. You only got a number if you cared about what others thought of you. And so Keima's like, I can't get a number, but Tenri technically can. And so I'm going to make Tenri the most popular girl. So for the first few chapters, it just becomes like Keima doing really... It goes back to the comedy. It becomes very silly. Just Keima doing things to like make Tenri popular. He has a battle with a duo who like a stand-up comedy duo.
Yeah.
And his entire performance with Tenri is Tenri not saying a single word to him and just doing her thing where she pushes him. And like, Keima's like doing all the dialogue. And it was really legitimately funny.
It was actually funny. I remember laughing at this point.
Yeah, so Keima's doing stuff like that to like get her ranking up. And eventually he meets the number one ranked girl, who's, I think she's called the princess or the queen.
I don't really like this girl.
Well, you're not supposed to.
I know.
I
fall for it every time.
She's the evil witch archetype, which is really not seen much in Galgate. At least in my experience. I mean, I don't play a lot of them, but I play a decent amount.
Oh, you're
What?
being too modest.
Whatever. I've never seen this archetype before. And even Keima's like, I don't like this archetype because it's the most troublesome to conquer. And so Keima he doesn't have to conquer her, but it's the only way he knows to kind of get her to stop doing evil stuff. You find out that the girl's actually working for the devils. This girl's like maybe 9 years old,
Yeah.
but she looks like she's like 12. And she's doing the work for the devils. The number rank is basically also the girl who will have the biggest hole in her heart. And so she kind of has this gun that marks girls, and whoever are the highest ranked girls, she'll mark for demons. And that's her entire plot. And Kane was like, I have to stop this because this isn't right. And that's what the entire arc is about. It kind of culminates in a battle between Keima, Tenri, and this girl who I really don't remember her name. I don't think it's all that important.
You're not gonna get anything from me. I blanked this whole thing.
I think 5 podcasts ago I've abandoned you in terms of you remembering any names.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did. Nobody likes me.
I like you.
Yeah.
At least one girl does. You're getting married.
That's true.
She's not behind a computer screen. Yet.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you better be. Anyway, so their battle is like a battle of Romeo and Juliet. They have to like see who can put on the best play. And the play itself really isn't all that important for Keima. He actually uses it to kind of instruct Tenri of what he's doing. And he basically reveals everything to her. Says, I'm from the future. And he writes her a letter. And the letter is basically the entire series of World Godly Knows. He outlines his entire life to her.
Yeah, it's pretty much step by step what needs to be done in order for this to work.
And he says, after the trip, or during the trip itself, I won't remember you. I'll have no memory of you, and I won't remember you for another 10 years.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
And he's like, you're the only person in the world that can ask of this. If you do these things right, in 10 years' time, we'll save the world. Mm-hmm. And that's what basically the Romeo and Juliet thing was for him. Yeah. He actually does kiss the witch girl. I don't know why.
Because she had a loose soul.
Yeah, but he didn't. No, and she didn't have a loose soul. Like I said, he didn't need to conquer her. But it was his way to defeat her.
After the school arc, I think the school just reset to normal, right?
It did, but that was basically, it ends with Keima defeating the girl, and she's like begging him because he actually undoes all the markings that she does.
Yeah.
But he puts one on her. And he says, the only devil that's going to be here is going to be the one inside of you. And he locks the door. And she's pounding on the door, begging him to save her. Before she was like all calm, she's like, you're going to save me because you're a good person. He's like, I'm not the hero of this story. And he just walks away.
Yeah, that was pretty...
It was a badass moment for a 7-year-old. Yeah. And so she's like banging on the door, like, you have to save me, you have to save me. And Tenri... By the way, this girl has been torturing Tenri this entire time. She's been trying to turn her against Keima. And Tenri just says, Keima, let's save her. And then Keima's like, I already did. And like he's like holding the marking around his hand. Oh. And then he leaves. Meanwhile, she's like, the evil girl's like freaking out. So that's the end of the school arc.
What happened? There was something in the school where he was falling and things.
Oh, I completely missed that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big moment.
What was that?
Okay. So this is actually because of the evil girl. Keima, like we said before, what he did to Chihiro broke him. You don't see it because he hides it, but in the middle of the school arc, it finally culminates.
He says, I'm done. I remember that.
It broke him, and he says to himself, like, I make girls fall in love with me. That's such a... And then I make them forget.
Yeah.
I cause them pain for no reason. I'm the worst kind of person. And he says, I just can't do this anymore. Because every girl he makes fall in love with him, he gains some sort of attachment. Yeah. Even if it's small, he'll gain attachment.
Well, how can you not?
Exactly. So it just breaks him. Every time he has to do this, it hurts him inside. Chihiro being the biggest one. And he's like, I'm done. I'm never going to capture a girl again. I don't want to do this again. It hurts too much. I'm just done. Mm-hmm. And then the world starts breaking.
Yeah, because he's causing a time, what do you call it? Time paradox?
I would say it's a paradox.
Yeah, he's causing everything to fall apart. Because if Keima does not conquer or even play Galga games in the future because of this,
he disconnects the past from the future.
Everything will fall apart.
And the world ends, basically.
And then Tenri ends up saving him.
She saves him, and she holds his hand, and there's a giant chasm of space that she leaps over, which almost kills her.
Yeah.
But Keima rescues her, and she says, just talk to me. Like, we'll talk through this. And they do talk through it.
And I think that's where he ended up explaining.
Maybe. Because you don't actually hear what they talk about.
No, you don't.
Which, damn it, I want to know what they talked about.
So long
missed that.
I think at the end of it, there's something started happening after the school arc. The grandfather began getting very involved with this process.
Keima basically recruits the grandfather and says, he tells the grandfather everything as well. It's like, I need you to do these things within the next 10 years. And he basically helps Keima do what he wants. And so Keima goes to the Akanemaru and he finds a new compartment to the ship that Dakuro shows him. And she's like, I don't know what it does. And then it shows Dakuro's skull the first time, and the Dakuro's skull explains the entire plot that I already explained to you guys. And about connecting the past and the future, or the present, or whatever. But it also lets him talk to the goddesses in the future if they're by the object in the future. And in the future, the goddesses are all brought together by the old man, because that's what Keima told them to do 10 years ago. And they're actually under attack by the group that actually was controlling Vintage, which really they could have just called them Vintage. Like they didn't have to give them a new name. The name was like, I don't know how to say it, like Satyr, it's like Satyr.
Satire or satire or
Satyr.
probably something like a Roman mythological creature.
So Vintage 2.0.
Yeah, pretty much with those giant things.
They have giant golems, and their goal is to kill the goddesses. So that's what they're trying to do. There's also this one girl who's kind of a foot soldier of Vintage, who did battle with Hakwa, and she beat Hakwa. Yeah. I forgot to mention this because it actually escaped my mind. Hakwa had beaten everybody at this point, and this one girl destroys Hakwa, and she's like,
Akari girl?
No, this is like a green-haired one, green-haired devil with horns. She uses like a switchblade as her weapon. When Hakwa uses a scythe,
she was a really small character, wasn't she?
Yeah, but she's deadly. Mm-hmm. And she when she destroyed Hakwa, she's like, "I'll let you live because you provided me entertainment." She's not even hurt, and she just flies away. And I thought that was the end of the character. I'd actually completely forgotten about her until now.
Yeah.
And this girl is actively looking out for goddesses, like trying to kill them still. And then she goes to the ship, and
I remember. That's that girl. Okay, I remember now.
You find out Dokuro in the past is Keima's homeroom teacher in the present.
That kind of blew me away.
It wasn't a huge twist, but it was like I never saw that coming.
I mean, you could probably see the similar art style in the young Dokuro with the homeroom teacher, but you were so involved in the story at this point, and the homeroom teacher.
There were 2 arcs within the major arc. Like you're not gonna remember.
There's so much going on in between the homeroom teacher and the young Dokuro that you wouldn't not remember, and so that was a good twist.
It was great, and oh my god! So Dokuro's like, along with the old man Shiratori and Tenri, they're all trying to like move everybody, all the goddesses together so they can bring Keima back to the present. And basically they're being attacked by the Vintage 2.0. Yeah. That's happening in the present. Keima's at the machine in the future or the past, and he's like, "So is anybody there? Kind of want to come home." And so Dokuro defeats. She gets this huge blood-ridden battle with that girl
on the boat, right?
On the boat, Dokuro bashes her skull in. Like, she caves her head in, and the girl gets up and she's like, "If I was human, that would have killed me." Yeah. And she stabs Dokuro multiple times.
Because neither of them can die.
No, Dokuro can die. She's still human. But she's a bit above human. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the other girl, Dokuro can't kill her. But Dokuro basically just impales her on this thing.
Yeah, what happens is Dokuro, they're fighting over top of the compartment with the time travel machine, sort of, or the communication device. And Dokuro, throughout the fight, was unwinding her spell. I wouldn't do that if I were you. They're all going to hear that.
You can cut this out.
Fine.
Okay,
just do it.
Cutting this out. All right.
We don't need a soundboard. Anyways, Dokuro was breaking apart a spell that held the boat together in secrecy and broke the floor, impaling the green-haired girl on a spike and getting her stuck because she's immortal, right? Kind of like Vamp from Metal Gear Solid or whatever.
Yeah. Nice reference.
Thank you.
For someone who hasn't played Metal Gear.
Well, I watch you play it. It's all cutscenes. You don't have to play it.
That's what you say about Final Fantasy X when I play it.
Well, I watch that too. You don't need to play it.
We're pretty close to being finished that game.
Yeah.
Not even close to 100%ing it, though. It's going to take us a couple months. Anyway.
But because she unraveled the spell, those big...
The giant golems.
Golems were able to find it and just wreck the ship.
They destroy the ship, and then they break the mechanism that's supposed to bring Keima back. And Dokuro freaks out. She calls him Oni-chan as an adult. She's like, "Oni-chan, it's broken. I don't know what to do. Oni-chan," and the world goes white. It blanks.
And so this
both the past and the present.
See, I'm beginning to remember now because I just mostly remember this. So now I can actually talk about some stuff. So at this point, the girls are now stuck in a world of white. Right? Is this right? They're all together. They're stuck in a world of white.
Yeah, this part you hated.
And I didn't really hate this. I'll explain that. But they're all together and they're able to communicate with Keima.
They basically use the power of the goddesses, specifically Tsukio's goddess, repairs the mechanism to the point where they can talk to Keima. But most of the goddesses, the girls, have to form a circle and hold hands and lovey-dovey power love kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, as long because Keima's frozen in time unless they're doing this, and so Keima's like, okay, just hold hands for a while. I gotta go do some stuff. I'll be back. and then he leaves.
Ayumi is not liking this
Ayumi's
situation.
like, what the hell's... You just ruined the world. She's like, I'm gone. She gets up and leaves.
This is where I think that Ayumi, she was the one who got freaking married, man. Mm-hmm. She has, I think, the biggest hurt out of all the girls. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
I think Ayumi has the biggest pain from what happened, and she, all throughout, refuses to accept Keima because of how he had double-crossed everyone. Everyone else seems to understand that Keima had to do it for a reason because devils and things way more powerful than them were hanging over his head.
Mm-hmm.
But she was stuck, and I think that's because she got the most hurt.
I don't know. I have nothing to say to that. So in this, basically, Keima tells him to hold on. He has to go still do some setup for the real, or for the connection to happen.
You're going to have to explain this part to me. I didn't know what
Sure.
Elsie was doing and everything in this.
Elsie disappeared, by the way. She vanished. When the world went to white, Elsie ceased to exist. So Keima goes and he starts marking all the girls that are going to host goddesses for the future.
That's what she was doing.
That's what he was doing. So he marks Chihiro, or not Chihiro, sorry. He marks Ayumi, he marks Shiori, he marks all the girls. And he actually, during this time, Tenri's trying to get Ayumi to come back. And she gives her the letter that Keima wrote 10 years ago, where he actually talks about every single girl.
Yeah, and he details a lot of Ayumi's character traits, which he liked, and it kind of softened Ayumi up.
He talks about why these girls are worth protecting, why they're worth saving, and why he's going through all of this pain. Mm-hmm. And Ayumi reads the bit about herself, and she's like, okay. And she gets up, she's like, well, now that I read that, how can I not save him? And basically the only reason she wants Keima to come back, at least before this, was so she could beat him up and be like, we got married last week and you haven't called me. Like, she was so mad. Okay, I want to go back to the rotations. When it was Ayumi came for her rotation, she literally kidnapped Keima. And then Shiori and Tsukio were doing the rotation together. And Tsukio's like, what do we do? Because they're both terrified of Ayumi.
Yeah.
Because she's scary. And then Shiori's like, oh, I brought this just in case. She pulls out a game and the game starts beeping. And Keima starts sprinting back to her. And then she's like, Shiori's like, or not Shiori, Tsukio's like, you really know Keima well. She's like, it's just a coincidence. Like, she won't know. She won't acknowledge it at all. It's so good. And Ayumi's like, God damn it. She was just trying to get him alone. But yeah, so Ayumi comes back. They form a circle. They bring Keima back to the present.
After all the tagging's been done, he says it's all over. He swaps back.
He's prepared everything. He's back into the present. And the world comes back as it was blanked out. So the ship is destroyed. All the girls are falling from the sky. So the goddesses suddenly take over. The goddesses start blowing up the golems. And then Keima's just like laying down. And then Diana's like holding him. And then Dokuro's doing her thing. And then Diana's like, he's not waking up.
Well, this is where I started, like, if there were 4 more chapters after this, I would have been okay. The problem was, what was this? The second to last one?
Third to last.
Okay, what was happening was I was expecting a big battle. I was expecting something to happen. You know what I mean?
I was too, but it was because of what Elsie said. It confused me.
But the goddesses were all fighting off screen. You couldn't.
Yeah, mostly.
It was just, you know how mad you get when character development happens off screen? I get mad when
Goddamn Ignacio.
I get mad at plot skips, time leaps, and
we've
lack
covered
of
that.
information. I hate that.
We've covered that.
And so this is where World Godly Knows gets a lower rank on my list just because of the ending.
Okay.
But we'll get to this.
Speaking of anger, if you want to listen to us get angry, listen to our the Pilot's Love Song podcast. It's a very shout-worthy podcast.
I'm a little neutral, but you might want to turn your headphones down a little bit when Rage Preet comes out.
You were the one who kept me grounded, or tried to anyway.
At least I tried to keep everything, without peeking all the time.
Yeah. So Keima, we cut into like the second last chapter, I think. Keima is in this just world with Elsie. She like cooks some food. You haven't seen Elsie in like 4 chapters. And she like just starts spewing exposition. And it's exposition that really confused me, not because I didn't understand it, but because I thought it was implying that there was going to be another arc. She says basically she was the final boss. And I'm like, okay, so Keima has to fight Elsie. Like, she's like, you know what to do now. And Keima's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, one more arc. I'm on board, sure. And then at the last page of that chapter, it said, God Only Knows ends next week. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But basically what happened, or what Elsie says, is that she is actually not a demon, but she's a weapon who was turned into a demon by Dokuro's skull in an effort to hide her.
This is where I start rolling my eyes. This is way too fast.
Yeah. But anyway, so basically by the way, before this, she gave a major death flag to Keima. Like, she's like, I've always wanted a family. And then Keima's like, you and I aren't family. And she's like, but I want us to be. He's like, are you trying to die? Because this is how you die. And then she disappears. I'm like, oh God, Keima was right. And then she's like, I'm happy, even if it was for a little while, I could have an older brother. And then,
I'll just take note that she actually cooked something that he ate.
yeah,
That was-
Keima doesn't, her cooking's awful.
Yeah.
And then she takes off his collar.
Yeah.
The collar that's
and I
been
was like,
holding
oh
him.
crap, this is over.
Yeah. And then the chapter ends. You know what? I think this was actually the third last chapter. The next chapter is the second last chapter.
No, because you said it ends next week. They crammed
Maybe.
every single girl ending into one chapter.
No, but I think I'm missing a chapter. Anyway, regardless, next what happens is Keima wakes up. The world is back to normal. Everything's fine. Maybe this was part of the last chapter. Anyway, regardless, this is this is a
you're
different
right.
chapter. I know what
You're
I'm doing.
good. You're good.
He comes out, and then his mom is like, she calls someone named Ellie or whatever, and then Elsie comes up and she's like, hey mom, and like she does all this stuff, and like she does what she normally did to Elsie. And then Keima's like, Ellie. He walks to the front of the house where it says like all the names of the people and says his mom, his dad, Keima, and it says Ellie Katsuragi, and he's like, what?
And all of the pictures had been changed so that Ellie had actually been around since
Yeah.
he was a kid.
And then Keima's like, what is this? She's like, this is my ending. And she's
Oh,
like, I
yeah.
finally got my family.
That was really nice.
And then Keima's like, you see him accept it, but at the same time, he's like, I don't want a little sister. But like that was so sweet. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, Elsie, that's so nice. And then so basically the only other notable thing that happens in this chapter anyway, until like the very final chapter where they end everything, Keima goes and she's like, or no, Elsie, I think she says, I've had my ending. It's time for yours. And Keima's like, you're right. And he walks away and he's in front of a girl's house. And the girl opens her door and it's Chihiro. And she sees Keima. And she's like, she's kind of flustered. And she's like, what are you doing here? Because, I mean, they still have, I won't call it bad blood, but
It's bad blood.
There's been some dark stuff in between them.
Yep.
And she says, or Keima says, I came because I'm in love with you. He confesses to her flat out. And the last panel is just a full page, I think, of Chihiro's face. And she's just like, what?
Yeah. That's what I was like. Why Chihiro?
That was the exact
Why
same way. I was
Chihiro
like,
out of everybody?
of all the girls.
Is he doing it out of guilt, you think?
No. I know exactly why he did it. They explain it. It's a good explanation. It makes sense. So in the last chapter, finally, this is the very end of the God Only Knows. He's talking to Takuro. And Takuro's like, so what'd you do? And then like he basically says, like, I confessed to Chihiro, and he's like, did you get rejected? And then he's like, yeah. She's like, of course you did. You just told the girl you love her. It doesn't work like that way in real life.
Plus,
And-
no one would believe him at this point.
yeah. And then she basically tells the audience why Keima's in love with Chihiro. It's because out of all of the conquests, of all the girls, with the exception of Yui, until like Keima figured out how to do it with her, he was always able to manipulate girls into doing whatever he wanted. Always. He was never able to manipulate Chihiro. Chihiro always threw him off track. She always did what she wanted. She was his counter. The way I thought Ayumi was his counter, but he could still kind of manipulate Ayumi. And
Well, it's because Ayumi was showing so much personality, and she was one of the only girls that wasn't static. Like, she was being very dynamic at the end, and the other girls were just settled into their help roles.
oh, I see what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Keima, he says the perfect line. Literally, there could not be a better line than this. He says, I could never see her ending. And I was like, applause.
The fact that they waited.
Applause.
Yeah, the fact that they waited to the end to say that, and he didn't say it any other time, I love that. It was good.
I mean, it's just a line, but man, is it good. If you've been sticking to the series as long as we have.
Like 5 or 6 years for you, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time. And then
That
just
must have hit the shiver spine.
that, it hit me in the heart. I was like, oh, I love this character. I love this
And
series.
this is where you begin to slowly turn the gears of giving up on the series because it's ending.
Takuro, actually, they have the conversation between them I love so much because he's like, if you were Takuro this whole time and I saved your life, why did you keep taking away my game system? And she was like, because you always paid attention to other women. And I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Well, she probably fell in love with him.
She
when
fell
he
in
was a
love with
kid.
him. She doesn't outright say it. And then after that, she walks away. And then he's like, wait up. She's like, if I turn around, I'll stop being your teacher and I'll be Takuro again.
Oh, that hurt.
And I don't want that. And then she turns around. She says, goodbye, Oni-chan. And I was like, oh, this series is so good. And then you go through all the endings for the girls. Ayumi and Yui are talking. Ayumi's pretty sad. She's like, I never knew my first love would end this way. I mean, can you blame her?
Yeah.
And then Yui's like, yeah, but it was fun while it lasted.
She's saying it was a beautiful romance. Like, you don't get a romance like this
Yeah.
ever in your life. It's
And
a
then,
once in a lifetime.
And then Yui says, I'm still not giving up on Keima.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, fair enough. Shiori and Tsukio kind of look like they're giving up on Keima, but they're investigating the demons and the goddesses. They're investigating the entire history of the world. Is there a girl missing? Canon is just doing her idol thing. Really, she fell back. Like, after her stabbing in the goddess arc, she didn't really do much.
No, she fell way out of the spotlight. Did anything happen? Oh, Hakua and Nora get an ending as well.
They got
were
promoted, I
near
think.
the end of what happened. We didn't really explain this, but Nora was actually the enemy. She would actually be the antagonist a little ways through World God Only Knows. And then when Vintage came in, she teamed up with Hakua, and they started kind of fighting together, albeit a little rivalry a little bit, but it was there.
Yeah.
And then they ended up together, and they were teamed up in New Hell as part of the Spirit Squad or whatever it's called. So that was kind of nice, a little side plot that we never touched.
I guess. Hakua got a...
She didn't really get an ending, did
No,
she?
not really. It
No.
was kind of bland.
For a character that was almost as big as Elsie midway through, just getting dropped off like that?
Yeah, and then Tenri. Oh, God. Poor Tenri. I feel... Okay, how I feel about Tenri is the same way I feel about Suguha in Sword Art Online, is where I just feel so sorry for this girl. Suguha, I felt bad for her because she fell in love with the same guy twice, who was her brother. It's like, poor girl. And so, in... We can just cut the silence out.
Say so Ina again.
I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, Suguha. So in a way, my sadness towards Suguha is related to my sadness towards Tenri, even though they're sad for different reasons. Basically, Tenri looks at the letter. You finally see the ending of the letter that she wouldn't let anybody read. And it says, Tenri, I need to confirm with you that no matter what happens, you and I will not have an ending together.
And the worst part is, she had read this letter for 10 years.
10 years.
There's no way that she had read that line before.
She's in love with him for 10 years.
And every single day, in order to refresh the plan, she had to read his rejection. And yet she still stuck with it.
This poor girl. And then she just says, like, Diana's like still with her. And Diana's like, Tenri, are you okay? She's like, I'm not going to lie. I still kind of hoped. And poor Tenri. Ugh. This poor girl.
You know what? The thing about Harem's done right is that you pick your own best girl. You know what I mean? And you pick the one that you want to end up with. The problem is, well, for a good one, the main character ends up with only one of them. And you get left with a bittersweet feeling like it wasn't right. But I think that's cool because it's unique to every single person who reads it, you know?
I very much approve of his choice of Chihiro because I think it makes sense.
I think it makes the most sense. It's not what
I
would've done.
wanted. But that's the nature of a harem, like you said.
I mean, I was kind of in Tenri's boat though, more than Ayumi, just because I felt like Tenri worked way harder than the other girls, way harder. Chihiro has hers wasn't even that heartbreaking. All the other girls fell in love too, and they remembered.
Are we talking about Chihiro?
Chihiro only had one letdown. These girls, all of them, had to go through two.
But none of them got actually rejected by Keima verbally.
Ayumi did. Not verbally. She got really destroyed. That's very true. But Tenri...
What he did to Chihiro
Tenri got
so
verbally
dark.
rejected for 10 years.
Yeah.
I think Tenri deserves the spotlight. I don't know why she didn't get it.
Tenri deserves a happy ending.
She deserves way
she did
more of an
so
ending than
much
what
for
she got.
Keima. And the thing is, Keima knows he can't do anything for her.
I mean, it's the whole childhood friend thing, right? That trope rarely goes through. Except if it's like a love-based romance on the childhood friend relationship. But the childhood friend who comes in usually only stays as the childhood friend. There's like this wall kind of brotherly thing that goes up.
I think it's because the childhood friend ending is not very popular in general.
It's because it's kind of real.
I know I generally don't like it.
People don't like the realism.
Anyway, so that's God Only Knows.
And it ended.
Oh man, what a great ride. I am very happy I stuck with this series. It's so good.
There's two sides to this series. There's the anime and the manga. And honestly, I had my gripes. Overall, though, the story is pretty sound. It is hurt by a rushed ending. The anime does an amazing job of producing itself. The art is amazing. The girls are well fleshed out. There is little to no fan service. I
True.
approve. I give it 9 out of 10. It loses 1 point for a rushed ending. And the wrong girl.
I'd give it a solid 10.
Yeah. Well, you liked it. You loved it.
I love it.
You
So
have
good.
6 years of nostalgia to back that
It
up.
was my favorite ongoing
Nobody's
series
gonna-
while it was going on.
Nobody's going to
I
regret
wonder what my favorite ongoing series is now.
You know what we're going to do, though?
What?
Because we've gone on for so long, we're going to make the recap in another podcast.
I
We
don't-
have to.
Do we, though?
It's been an hour and a half.
Yeah, I told you we're going to pass the hour and a half mark.
I just feel like we shouldn't. I think we should separate it. I know you probably want people. It'll probably make more of a niche thing. I think it's good. I think people understand.
Okay, so I guess that's it. I'm Raj from James and Brown.
And I'm Spencer from James and Brown.
Thank you so much for sticking with us today. We'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye, guys.
Yeehaw!